And so this is kind of a cool quote because happiness, we ask why a lot in startups because we want to get to the root cause. But if we really believe in trying to go after happiness, and you can ask why 5 or 6 times to sort of get to the answer of it, you end up at happiness. It's really, really interesting to us. But what is really bad with people is that they actually are not very good at predicting what will bring them sustained happiness. That's what the research has shown in the field of positive psychology. It's usually if I get something, then I'll be happy, or a car or a house, or if I achieve something like a promotion or become CEO of my company, I'll be happy. Turns out that we're really, really bad at predicting this. And so that led us to think about this. There's a science for a lot of stuff that we do in e-commerce. And there is a science for happiness, too, out there. So the question is, well, if you spend 10% of your time thinking about the science of happiness, how much happier would you be? And could you apply that to business? And 2 years ago, our CEO, Tony, really wanted to sort of search for happiness, not because he wanted to be a happier person, but why don't you just find a shortcut instead of having to go through all of this? And so he started studying the frameworks of happiness about 2 years ago, and it turns out you can just like anything else, you can summarize it in a few frameworks. And so here are some of the frameworks we've discovered on this journey in terms of learning about happiness and how we've applied it to business. So there's one framework that says it's about perceived control, perceived progress, connectedness, and having the higher vision and having higher meaning. Perceived control, there's a lot of studies that employees really are much happier and much more engaged if they have autonomy in their jobs. And you just have to figure out ways where you don't have to micromanage them, but divide up the tasks in a way that they believe they have control over what they're doing. Perceived progress, we have, at Zappos, to get from entry level to becoming a buyer, which is a really big deal at Zappos, it takes about 3 years. And 3 years is a long time, so that's how it started at Zappos. And we decided, well, people weren't so happy about it, so we divided it up to the first 18 months to be a merchandising assistant. The second 18 months is to become an assistant buyer, and then you become a buyer. It's the same 3-year process, and we noticed people were happier by just dividing the time frame in half because they could see the next level. And we've since divided it up into merchandising assistant 1, 2, and 3, assistant buyer 1, 2, and 3, and then you become a buyer. So those interim steps, which is now 6 months, makes people a lot happier because they have that sense of perceived control. Connectedness is something that we try to encourage. We don't try to encourage work-life separation. Everybody wants to have a high quality of life, and most people define high quality of life as work-life balance. And that's, in some sense, that's a notion that work sucks. We don't want work to suck. We want there to be work-life integration. And we try to encourage friendships at work. And we use Twitter to encourage people to get connected and Facebook to get connected as employees. And I think one of the questions we ask is, do you have a best friend at work? Because the research has shown that actually increases happiness. And the higher vision, higher meaning is something that I think all of us can identify with. Another framework is, this is an old sort of thing, it's Maslow's hierarchy. Well, you can actually apply Maslow's hierarchy to your employees, to your customers, to your partners, and even to your investors. And there's a book called Peak by Chip Connolly that does that, and he simplifies it as Maslow's hierarchy. And so for employees, they come to work for a job because they need the money. Once they have enough money, what do they think about? Well, building up their career, getting recognition. That's the second level. And the third level is doing something that they really are passionate, they really love, which Chip calls a calling. And so this is kind of a cool thing that you can also apply to your customers as well as your partners and your investors.